We're here with Maggie at Gunners Firearms. How are you doing today, Maggie?
Doing great, Mark. Welcome back to Gunners, everybody. Been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's been a good while. Couple months. But that's good because that gives us a chance to talk about what's been going on. So there's this new executive orders came out.
Okay.
And I know you and I haven't talked in depth about this, but according to the last regime, if you looked at the website, there was a piece about holding FFLs accountable to agree where there's little to no wiggle room for mistakes.
Oh.
Now, I don't know how that affected you on the ground here, but from what I understand, the new executive orders are really orders to examine all the rules that have been made over the last 4 years, all of the different things that are applying, and how it is affecting specifically FFLs.
Oh my gosh. So there is actually published information on the atf.gov website, and everyone can go and access this information online. And it shows the previous 4 years of FFLs, and it shows if they have been closed, and it actually shows what city, what state it was in. It goes through and it lists the number of FFL closings per year, and it was eye-opening to see how those numbers exponentially grew in 4 years. Like the first year, it was like, 50 or so retired a license. By the end, we're multiple hundreds down into this list. And it's every year was a significant increase in the number of FFLs that were forced out of business, either through clerical errors. And I don't know how they were graded or what grading scale, because remember, these are still individual humans that have to go through and check everything too. So, I mean, there is a small margin of human error that you're going to find on any paperwork. On this side of the counter, definitely on your side of the counter, but and then when they come through and they audit and they check us, they're going to find some errors too. Hopefully, for God's sakes, we're not making terrible errors that would get us closed, but...
Well, it's almost impossible. I was a science teacher, and I don't agree with doing anything without errors. Like, there's no way you're doing anything without errors.
Yeah.
Like, because if you and I did the exact same thing, we would have different results because we're two different people. And
yes.
So I always thought that was a little brutal, kind of, because it felt like a one strike you're out kind of thing is what it read like. Like, what it looked like, I don't know, but what it read like was... You make a mistake, you're out. And
that's exactly, for 4 years, kind of what it felt like. Like, okay, if you screw up,
so how, I guess my big question would be, it probably feels different, but is it different? Like, does it, I don't know.
It's another day that ends in Y. We woke up, we're here. Let's just see what happens and what gets thrown at us today. So the rules that we're going with now have been put in place by the previous, but we're still working on those same rules, assuming that that's the rules going forward.
Well, if I understand you right, kind of like you can sense there's less threat, but you haven't really felt like it's just another day in paradise.
Yeah, like you take a deep breath and you keep moving on.
Yeah.
Because it's still today, and nothing has changed today. It's the same as it was yesterday. The sun's still going to rise in the east. It's going to set in the west. And if we wake up, we'll be here tomorrow too, God willing. So, we're just here for it.
Brian, you want in on this? Got any thoughts on it? No. All right.
He's like, I got...
Administration, they just use this as a political tool. Yes. That's just what the government does, collect data.
Do you want to throw that in? It's good information.
Yeah, the government is...
Do you want to come in?
No.
Okay. He's like, no.
Collecting data, political tools, weapons, whatever.
Collect data, political tools, and weapons. Yeah.
It's just, that's really, an FFL is a data collection point. Anything with government oversight or anything that is handed to the government is a data point for collection. Your income tax returns that you file every year. If you're running a business, that's a data collection point. Every piece of data the IRS collects, every piece of, and you know, this feels like tinfoil hat territory. I really don't want to.
Do you mind if I ask you this? Let's just talk about what's real. Like, okay, so I know you have good relationships with almost anybody you interact with.
I try
You're just
to.
that kind of person. But when the ATF, from what I understand over the years, anytime you interacted with the ATF, you guys seem like you get along. Like maybe you go get, like it's not a threatening interaction. So I guess my question would be, you've obviously interacted with the ATF.
Yes.
All right, okay. So is there a sense that, because my guess is they don't really want, the agents don't desire to shut down FFLs. They're being led by their boss. Not all of them. Maybe they do like it. I once met an IRS agent who wanted to take everything from a business I was at, and I was like, your job must be hard. And she literally said, oh no, I love doing this.
Did you ever work somewhere when you were teaching where there was a teacher that just loved to pass out low grades to students?
Yes, I've had teachers like that. Yeah,
yeah.
So is there a sense that, I guess the question
That's
is, and I don't really have, is there a sense that their job is changing?
Their job is always constantly in flux. If you think about it, with every 4 years, their boss has a new boss, and that new boss is telling them, and it's just, pardon the expression, but is just rolling down the hill.
Yeah, I guess.
And so it's gotta fall somewhere, and it's gotta fall on someone. So yeah, you get great ones, and they're wonderful human beings that are a joy to work with, to work for, and to interact with. And then you kind of get the salty ones in the bunch. That you get the ones you don't really want to interact with.
Now, have you interacted with any of them since the election at all? A strange question, but I'm just curious how the ATF dealing with FFLs may be changing.
That's really interesting. Yeah, we always assume that there is ATF presence in our store, even if we do not know about it, because it's not like every single individual that walks through the doors of our establishment identifies themselves. Hello, I am here and I work for the government. I'm just here on my own personal time to do some personal shopping, but while I'm here, I'm also kind of just listening to see how you're going about your business in your day and how you are interacting with your customers, and yeah, so you really don't know. And so you just kind of go off the assumption that everybody is there to tattle on you to the government for what you're going to do wrong, or everybody's just there to, make you double check and look twice.
So the next time that the ATF come in, would you ask them, like, how are things going?
I always do.
I'd be really curious.
I always do.
How that's going to affect. I'm really interested in how it's all going to affect you guys here, or just really FFLs across the country, because as I read that executive order, that was really a piece that I thought, that is something I've not ever really seen, as somebody saying, well, how is all these things affecting the FFLs?
So here's a question. Hey, Brian, have you gotten a call yet from the ATF going, Brian, how can we make your life at Gunners easier?
Have I, lately, or?
Have you ever gotten
a call from
I've had them come in and,
and ask you how they can make your life better?
Make it better? They don't word it that way.
That is not in there.
That's not how they word it, but they do come in. If you ask them questions, they're there to help you.
They really are.
You have to make the step and ask them, how can I do this better?
Sorry,
you're
I don't think the ATF is out to shut us down. I disagree. I've never met one that's like, hey, I'm out to get you. I just don't think so.
If they are,
maybe I've been very fortunate and lucky, which, thank you, God, I feel that I am very fortunate and lucky, but Had wonderful inspectors come in.
All right,
The,
that's great.
the ones we don't usually get along with or agree with, it's at that time that they have been trained to do their job, and the things at that time they have been trained to nitpick on.
Mm-hmm.
The rules exist. The rules are written, and it is up to each individual, as the shit rolls down the hill, how they interpret those rules. The way they are written, the way they are interpreted, and what they choose to focus on to make it harder or easier for those FFLs. Football reference, neutral zone infractions. There was the neutral zone infractions have always been a rule written into NFL, but how often are those rules enforced? And if you look, my husband just watched a video on this, and I kind of caught it secondhand, and so it was saying that, you know, hey, this rule's always been there, but if you look back historically, in certain years, in certain decades, and in certain times, different rules are enforced more or less than others. And it seems to just be on a whim of, maybe it's a whim, maybe it's not, maybe it's somebody going, yeah, we really need to look at this a little more. Maybe we've been too lenient, or maybe we need to, maybe we've been too strict and we need a little more grace there. So rules exist. Rules are already there, and it's just up to the interpretation of each regime change, the individuals that are auditing, what their boss is expected, how their boss is expected to perform at their job and the results they are expected of them, and then their boss's boss, and all the way up the chain. So
really in the end, it sounds like, because I've said this in many videos, and I've even said this to my wife when she's worried about what's going on in the world, and I always say, well, if you just kind of turn off the news and you turn off your phone and you just look at what's in front of you, nothing's really different.
really wrong. Nothing's really changed.
Nothing's really changed. And if the ATF comes in, like, it's just the same guy that you dealt with before. He just has a different boss.
Exactly.
And he is who he is. He's still a human. It's not like he was a lover of FFLs and then he got a new boss and he just hates him all of a sudden, and now he's got a different boss and now he loves him again. It's really just that you're dealing with humans, and if you shut off the noise,
and what data they want to collect at that time. So like, hey, you know, here's what we're looking for. If you find too many of these data collection points, we're going to. So
you would have been in trouble no matter who the president was if you had a bunch of
if you're making errors, and really if they seem intent on shutting you down, it's usually because they have a reason, because they've either been they've been sending people in poking at that FFL just to see if they can get the dealer to cross a line. Oh, well, okay, that's a gift. This is not usually how we do it, but for you, we'll make an exception.
I gotcha.
They're looking for those, you know.
We'll break the rules for you. Oh, I didn't know you were an undercover agent.
Oops. You can't break a rule for if you break a rule for one person, you're going to break them for everybody. You're going to be in trouble at some point. So just don't break a rule, and you don't ever have to worry about that. So if you just stick to the rules that you have put in place for your business and the way you operate, then you'll be fine.
Well, in each FFL as well, you know, depending on where you're at, you're dealing with a different branch of the ATF, and those guys have different bosses too.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And within the auditors that we see and within the agents that we have access to, they rotate too, because there is a small number of them and they have to cover a large square footage of area for their state, their regions, their districts, whatever. So they're kind of spread a little thin, and you may not get the same agents time after time after time. Some people are lucky they'll get the same ones that are in the area, and we'll have them from the day they open their business until the day they retire their business. And others, if they're a big enough store or they have multiple auditors, or maybe they're on a route that they're training new people, and so you're constantly seeing maybe one or two people that you knew from years past, but they've got somebody new with them that they're introducing to how the way things are done currently. So yeah, it's constantly you're constantly seeing new faces. You're not always seeing the same, and sometimes you don't want to make. Nobody wants to make a mistake on purpose, and we're not out there to do that.
So really, just in the end, it's another day.
Another day.
Just another day in paradise.
We woke up. We're here. Nothing has changed.
A lot of people didn't wake up today.
Oh my gosh, that's true. That's
Amen.
very true. So the ones of us that did make it, we really are. We're the lucky ones.
We're the lucky
blessed
ones.
We're here.
All right. Well, gosh, Maggie, thank you so much. Appreciate the insight on this.
You're welcome.
But you will talk to the ATF next time. Say, hey,
I
how's
will.
your job different?
Usually it's just like we catch up on, if it's the ones we know, I got a lot of stuff we got to catch up on anyway. So, we'll be talking.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for your input on that one.
Heck yes.
All right.
See you next time, everybody.